Hello YouTube, so today I want to talk very briefly on the 460 Weatherby Magnum. This is a Weatherby Mark V, chambered in, of course, 460 Weatherby. So just a brief history on the cartridge. So when the 460 Weatherby Magnum was first released, it was the most powerful commercially available cartridge at the time in 1958. The cartridge, contrary to what some people believe, did not start out as the 460 Weatherby Magnum. It first started as the 378 Weatherby and then was necked up to 458 caliber, and thus the 460 was born. So even though it is noted as the 460, it's still technically a 458 diameter bullet. In the class of 458 caliber rifles, we're looking at the power range of something from 3,000 feet a second with a 350 grain bullet. So quite a bit more than a 375 H&H. And when we're looking up to something like a 500 grain bullet, the 460 in many cases can push this up to 2,600 feet a second. So quite a bit more powerful, as I said, than the 375 H&H, and much more so than the 458 lot. So just to give you guys a brief idea, here's a 375 H&H case. This is essentially what the 458 lot was necked up to. So by eliminating this neck here and expanding it out to 458 caliber is essentially what the 458 lot is. And the 458 Win Mag is again the 375 H&H parent case, just shortened down. As comparison, here we have the 460 Weatherby Magnum. Get these lined up. So, quite a bit larger, as you might imagine. As you notice, there is a shoulder on this cartridge. It's not a straight wall like the lot would be. And the head diameter is significantly larger. They are both belted magnums, as you can see. Here's a comparison of two Barnes bullets. These are solid copper bullets, the left being the 460 400 grain bullet, and the right being a 270 grain 375 caliber bullet. So again, substantially larger. Actually makes the 375 look kind of small. The stock on this particular Weatherby is a 5-panel Lazermark stock. And the barrel has what Weatherby calls their true bluing. As opposed to other rifle bluing techniques, this one is a much brighter, richer colored blue as opposed to a more dull, opaque color. This one is much more reflective. Here's that nice muzzle brake on there, also blued. And the scope on this one is just a 1-power Nikon scope. For those of you interested in the scope, this is the Nikon Monarch. And as you can see there is the reticle, and notably, you can see the barrel through the scope. Here's just a closer shot of that recoil pad, as well as the trigger and the bolt handle. Now we get to the actual bolt itself. This is a 60-degree throw, so very nice, very short. I do prefer rifles that have a 60-degree throw. As you can see, the way they get away with this is by having what presumably looks like rather small locking lugs. Indeed, here you have it. You have a plunger-style ejector. Although I do prefer a Mauser-style ejector, this does have its advantages. As you can see here, there are those 9 locking lugs. And as you can see, indeed, they're not very tall, and they do look kind of shrimpy for a rifle of this class. So, to briefly explain this for you, to those of you who may not know, the reason why this is actually a stronger action comparatively to a 2-lug action is because of all of the surface area that comes in contact with the locking lugs. The best way I can describe this is the same way a Phillips head screw would be much more stronger than, say, a flathead screwdriver, or a flathead screw would be. One nice feature about the Weatherby is that your bolt release is the trigger, but they also have this nice big pin here that prevents the bolt from coming out. And as you can see, when I depress the trigger, this is what will release the bolt. I think this is a great idea, as opposed to some guns that use, say, a sear or some other kind of arrangement that could instantly break if you pull it too hard, as opposed to the Weatherby here. This pin is by no means under any circumstances going to break, no matter how hard you humanly want to pull that bolt. So some personal thoughts on choosing this gun for dangerous game. It's more than ideal for anything that walks on this earth. That's nothing short of the truth. The 460 Weatherby Magnum is close to, I believe it's 8,000 foot-pounds of energy, and when you compare that to something like a 50 BMG that has 13,000, it's not very far off. Although 50 cal is quite powerful and substantially larger, when you compare that, the 460 is only off by something like 400 or 500 foot-pounds, then it kind of puts into perspective just how substantial that cartridge is. So, again, as I mentioned, 60-degree bolt throw. This is excellent for follow-up shots, especially if you're in a dangerous game situation and you need to make fast follow-up shots to bring something like a dangerous Cape Buffalo down. And that's no exaggeration when I say this gun would be per se necessary, but follow-up shots being extremely necessary for something like a Cape Buffalo. I have personally talked to some professional hunters that have said in their experience they have seen a Cape Buffalo take as many as 13 shots from a 470 Nitro Express before finally going down. So when you put into ballpark just how tough these animals are, a 460 doesn't seem like a bad choice. So some of the drawbacks though with this rifle, as stated, recoil is going to be extremely harsh. A 9-pound rifle, yes, would be great to carry, but on the flip side, that lighter weight, of course, means that you're going to feel that recoil a bit more. So, that being said, the best way I could describe this gun to you shooting it without the muzzle brake is nothing short of getting hit in the shoulder with a baseball bat. I, in the slightest bit, think that it is that bad. With the muzzle brake on, it's not too terribly bad. It's about the same recoil as a mid-power 375 H&H, which is about ballpark a 3-inch 12-gauge slug. I think it's a little more powerful than a 12-gauge, actually a lot more powerful, but to kind of give you an idea of the recoil we're talking about here, to put into more understandable terms. So that being said, follow-up shots a little bit difficult with that harsh recoil, but that's something that if you're going to consider using a gun like this, you need to practice with, especially the fact that many places, depending on if you're considering hunting something like Cape Buffalo or game in Africa, guides will not allow you to hunt with a muzzle brake. So keep that in mind, that you can't rely on that as a crutch. And unfortunately, with this gun, it's like night and day. I do not exaggerate that in the slightest. So really, truly, without the muzzle brake, this gun is a absolute bruiser. And I would go so far as to say I would not recommend an inexperienced shooter, or even an experienced shooter who hasn't shot large caliber rifles before, to not shoot this without some kind of assistance with somebody who has. This gun, and guns of its nature, will physically hurt you if you do not know how to shoot them properly. A personal example, the first time I shot this without the muzzle brake, I have a video of this on the channel, by the way, if you haven't seen. The second shot I fired, I got too comfortable with the recoil, and instead of holding it nice and tight and allowing it to rock me, I kind of loosened my grip here a little bit, in my shoulder. Just kind of had it floating there, and it got enough of a running start, and I'm not even kidding, it injured the SC joint in my collarbone for some time. That's all healed now, but had I have not been in more control of the rifle, that could have been a very serious injury. So it's not funny to give this gun, or to have inexperienced shooters shoot it for the sake of funny videos. You can seriously injure somebody with it just by the recoil alone. So would I recommend this if somebody's going on, say, a safari in Africa? Absolutely. If you can handle this kind of gun, then by all means, bring this kind of gun. Just keep in mind, that you need to seriously practice with this, make sure it's sighted in, and get comfortable to getting kicked around a lot. That being said, a 375 H&H isn't the best option, but a lot of places you go to, that's the minimum allowed. So, depending on the situation, you have to weigh your odds, and if you have the opportunity to shoot various high caliber guns such as this in the 375 H&H, by all means do that. Find what's comfortable with you first before you make a dedicated decision. Just to give you guys a comparison, here is the 460 Weatherby, with a 400 grain bullet, compared to a 5.56 NATO cartridge. That's all for today. If you guys liked the video, consider subscribing or liking. There will be many more videos like this to come, and there's lots of stuff already on the channel. Check out if you haven't already. Cheers.